Right here we have our afternoon event, which is an event about the Wildcard series that we've been doing since, God, the mid-'80s, since the 1986 or so we began with this. And here we are in 2016 it is, and it's still going. The longest running shared world anthology series in the history of science fiction and fantasy. The 23rd book will be out next month, High Stakes, and we're presently at work on books 24, 25, and 26. Wildcards, as some of you may know, and some of you may not, is a shared world. We have like 40 different authors participating in it, but they all create characters, but the characters are all operating in the same universe, the same alternate world. They meet each other, they fight each other, they fall in love with each other, they have feuds, they make up. It's all in one gigantic, crazy universe that has been going on fictionally since 1946 in terms of the books coming out since 1986. Now, in the many years since 1986, well, before I get to that, there is a signing. We have wildcard authors here. There's a lot of them who are local New Mexico authors who are with us, but we also have authors who have come in, wildcard authors from all across the country. So it's the biggest gathering of wildcard authors that we've ever had. We have the New Mexico writers, we have writers from Chicago, from California, from New Hampshire, from Denver, from New Orleans, many, Texas, many different writers from many different places. So if you want to get autographed books, if you like autographing, we have all the wildcard books that are presently in print. And even some that are kind of hard to get, and those will all be for sale afterwards, and you can get them signed. I've already signed all of them, but these other people haven't, so you can get their signatures, get them to deface your books, and whatever. That is going to be done because we have so many authors, we can't do it in the Cocteau because it's a small space. So we've taken over the gallery space that's 2 doors down here. So after this is over, David, they'll all file out through this door and go in through the back door of the gallery space?
We could do that door, or we can do, actually, let's do the front door.
Do the front door, okay. Go out the front and go around that way to the back space, and we have the gallery open. There will be food and drink there too?
There'll definitely be drink.
There'll be drink there, okay. And of course, there's drink here. So some of you may need a stiff drink after you see what we have for you. Now, I was about to say, we've been doing Wildcard since 1986, and of course, the series have been very popular. We do a lot of science fiction conventions. We do a lot of panel discussions. Those of you who go to science fiction conventions know what a panel discussion is. 4 or 5 authors on the stage, and the moderator asks questions about, well, how did this series begin, and how did you begin writing, and where did the idea come from, and yada, yada, yada. And we've done these wildcard panels approximately 727 times, and we're tired of doing those. So that's not what we're going to do today. We decided to have a little fun today. We're not going to interview the writers about how they began writing or what their process is, or any of that stuff. Instead, we're going to do this in universe, and we're going to put the writers on stage, not as writers, but as their characters. Now, you'll have to be gentle with us, because you have to remember, we're not actors, we're writers. But some of us are real hams. So we'll see how that goes here. And for our moderator here, we have no longer Melinda Snodgrass. We have Noel Matthews, world-famous magician, also the ace known as Double Helix. Sometimes she's a girl, sometimes she's a boy, sometimes she's both.
He's a boy.
Watch pronouns, man.
She's always...
Watch pronouns.
Okay. Sometimes she has a winky, sometimes she doesn't, I don't know. But he's always, they is always snarky and rude and kind of an asshole. But I will now turn this over to Double Helix, And we will be calling up some of the characters on stage in small groups, because as you see, our stage can't hold 19 writers at once. It would collapse and break. So Noel, would you like to take over the proceedings?
Yes, thank you. I thought you would never shut up. All right, I'm Noel Matthews. I am indeed world famous. And because of that, I was invited to create a new show, a new talk show, called The Predicament Escape, which is a famous magic trick. I had thought about calling it The Devil's Torture Chamber, but I thought I might not get too many guests, and so I chose to go with this. Here you will meet celebrities, jokers and aces from our wild card world. Now, if any of you have been in a coma for the past 70 years, perhaps you are unaware that in 1946, some rather unpleasant aliens dropped a giant virus bomb on New York City, which resulted in people being created who were what other universes call superheroes. We call them aces. In addition to those lucky few, most people died, and then there were a smaller contingent who were twisted and deformed by the virus. They're called jokers. Sometimes they get a double dose, and you may meet one or two of those today. So let me bring up our first guests, and perhaps we'll find out if charm and talent is catching for these other people. So let's meet our first. I always like to start with a little bit of Hollywood glitz. So I'm going to relive the fights, the loves of American Hero, all the people who got along so well, here from the reality television show American Hero, and they then went on to other interesting events. We have, from Chicago, Todd it's an unpronounceable Polish name, perhaps TT, also known as Hard Hat, will be coming up. Let's give him a big hand. Welcome. In addition, we have Kate Brandt, who's also known as Curveball. Curveball, or Kate, is the all-American girl, and she's everybody's sweetheart. And now we finally have Rosa Lateria, who is a Latin beauty. Oh dear.
Hey, Miss Matthews. I drew a caballero. What do you expect?
Well, you could have held off on that. You put me at a disadvantage.
You told me to play the cards the way I drew them. I didn't force the cards, I just played them.
And that's why you're utterly useless in most situations. The canoe, the banana, really? All right, at any rate, moving on to someone who's more interesting and at the moment more attractive. Kate, what is your power? Could you describe a little bit about what you do in the wildcard universe that makes you an ace?
I throw things and blow them up.
Hey, succinct, lovely. Now, my understanding is that you discovered this power when you were trying out for a softball team.
Yes, I was trying out for the junior high softball team. I was a pitcher. And, well, let's just say I really wanted a spot on that team. And I broke the catcher's hand. I totally didn't mean to do that. It was a little traumatizing. But I have since embraced my powers and tried to do what I can with them to make the world a better place.
I see. Yeah, isn't that charming? Now, one of the things about the wild card universe is that they have barred aces from professional sports, which I find rather unfair. How do you feel about that? I mean, you could have couldn't we have Olympics that would be a lot more interesting than boring gnats trying to stand up against the awesome power of aces?
Well, yes, of course it was disappointing. I had Olympic dreams when I was 13 before my card turned. I'm not sure if anyone has attempted the Paralympics on the argument that, the abilities are different there. I don't think I would advocate that for myself. But we do have things like American Hero, for better or worse. For whatever it is. Not to make too many card puns around here, because it seems like we can't get too far away from it. You play the cards you're dealt, as it were.
Thank you. Now, you've played on the big stage. After American Hero, you went on to try to save the world, something which we must discuss. I have to disabuse you of these notions. At any rate, and you were in various countries, you did various things, and yet you walked away. Why is that? What was the reason for your abandonment of the big stage?
Oh, it didn't feel right anymore. When saving innocent lives is one thing, but when you're there defending oil fields that belong to corporate interests, it's a little different.
All right, thank you. TT, let's hear about your power.
It's the most fucked up thing you ever saw.
We are, well, we'll bleep you later. Go ahead.
Did we ever find out how many bleeps they used for you on American Hero?
Am I not supposed to say fuck in this environment? Pardon me. It's the goddamnest thing you ever saw. I was up top on the lift crane that I was operating on the loop there, and the load kind of operator, that would be me, his attention was drawn elsewhere by events, and anyway, some girders were plunging to cause some death down below. And I reached out with my mind, and these yellow I-beams came into being. It was beautiful. And I caught the beams, and now I can manipulate these girders, these energistic matter proton, some shit like that.
I see. Now, obviously, you're all sort of big losers when it comes to wild cards. What would you have done if you had won the $1 million and become the ace to defend Poughkeepsie, say, and instead of being in the discard pile the way you are?
The first thing I would have done was bought a fucking Tesla. I have 8 brothers and sisters. I help pay the fucking tuition for Sonny, and I'm a part owner now in the grocery store that I would have spread it out among my siblings and my mom.
You two are just so lovely, you and Curveball, just so...
Thank you, Noel.
So innocent and optimistic. Too bad the world is going to crush that before too much longer. I'd always thought, TT, that your possible future lay in designer hard hats. You could do something interesting in different colors, perhaps, in honor of one of your fellow contestants, the candle.
I like white and yellow. On the candle, the plastic would melt because his head's on fucking fire. That's what they call him, the candle.
I see. All right. Rosa. You were the runner-up in American Hero. You just couldn't cut it all the way, could you? And of course, when all of your friends and compadres went off to Egypt to, as Kate said, save innocent lives, I believe that you stayed on the show, did you not?
Yeah, I'd been in gang wars before. I know people die. They didn't.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your interesting power.
Well, it was my quinceañera. And my grandmother came up from Mexico, and she brought the family's antique loteria deck. And she's a cantara. She showed me how to deal the cards and how to sing the songs and do all the riddles. And I drew El Nopal and turned into a cactus in the middle of my quinceañera. And, well, I thought nothing could go worse, but something went better. My grandmother said, maybe I could try drawing another card. And like that ever happens for
How does a
Ruckles.
fucking cactus draw a card?
I still had hands, so paddle flippers. But it wasn't easy, but I did it.
She's always been a little prickly.
Yeah. And they got Labota's boots, and then suddenly I became sort of Nancy Sinatra with my boots made for walking, and next thing I knew I was standing in Ventura with my grandmother's card deck. But hey, it worked out. Yes, I didn't get American Hero, but I got plans.
You got plans. Do you ever regret the fact that you did not go to Egypt to defend innocent jokers in the desert?
No.
I like this girl. All right. Is there anything you would like to say to your fellow contestants now that it's all over? And, is there something you...
No hard feelings. I know you broke up with DB, so.
Oh, we never dated.
Bullshit.
What newspapers were you reading? What awful websites.
Pop-Tart said that you...
Oh, and why are you listening to her? You know better than that. I thought you knew better than that, but who am I to say what you know?
All right. Rosa, what are your future plans now?
It's... my grandma's sick right now, so I'm trying...
Maybe
I
you
wanted
should
to
give
get
her
the
cards back.
If there was something in this deck that would heal her, I would do it. But right now, I've just been trying to get, didn't get $1 million. I had one Chiquita Banana commercial. Yeah, that's it. You play the cards you're dealt.
So to speak. I have a feeling this is going to go on a lot and much too long. All right. Do you have any questions in the audience for our former contestants, former famous people who used to be on American Hero?
Sorry, just clearing my throat there.
Of course. She's so sweet, isn't she? One last question. So who did all of you sleep with when you were on the show?
Hey, I didn't make any secret of it. DB had 6 arms. I could turn into La Rana, 6 arms. We were both curious. Things went where they did. And then he went off with Pop-Tart.
Thank you all. So, moving on to our next
What
contestant.
is it up with her?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So next up, because every show needs an adorable urchin, we have Lorianne Broom. She's also known as Skeeter Girl, and she's from quaint and cozy Folsom, Louisiana. And making sure that we have diversity, we've got John Montano, a.k.a. The Candle. He was another one of the losers on American Hero, one of the rejects. And finally, Lorianne. Lorianne, are you listening?
Yes.
I'm going to make your dreams come true. Because here comes Jonathan Tipton Clark, a.k.a. Bugsy.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're good.
And actually, Bugsy, if you want, we can arrange that later. When the sun goes down, I can take care of that for you.
I actually
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a fear
Oh,
of
yeah.
flying insects, so.
You're screwed.
They'll pay attention to me. It's okay. I'll keep them off too. Oh, please.
All right. Let's start with the youngest and obviously the cutest. Lorianne, describe your powers.
I can control mosquitoes. Okay. I am from Folsom, Louisiana, and so we kind of have a lot of skeeters down there. And I've been able to control skeeters as long as I can remember. They've always really liked me around there. Never once been bit. Yeah, I know, right? Down in Louisiana, you think everyone get bit. And there's West Nile and Zeke and all that stuff, so it's a pretty good deal. But then when I was about 8 or so, I had a bunch of mosquitoes, and I made a big cloud of them. Because if I have one mosquito, I can make a whole bunch of mosquitoes. It's really cool. And I was making shapes and stuff. I made a cat. And then my mom came out, and she saw this cat, and she freaked out. So she grabbed the broom, and she's swatting at the mosquitoes and spraying down the porch and everything else. And she said, I can't handle this bleep anymore. And she ran off with the butcher from the Cajun meat store. So it's just been me and my dad. But he's pretty cool about it. And I have watched every single episode of American Hero twice, at least. And I'm really upset that it's been canceled because I really wanted to be on it. But maybe they'll bring it back, because I think they should bring it back.
So that's your ambition when you grow up. That was going to be my next question. You want to be on American Hero.
Well, just one of my ambitions, but I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. What other ambitions do you have?
Well, I think I should probably finish high school. I'm a freshman now.
Good plan,
and,
yes.
Then I guess we'll see what happens, I think I'd like to study mosquitoes and see how we can maybe, get it where they don't spread diseases so they can improve their reputation. Because people really hate mosquitoes a lot because of all that, like the Zika and the malaria and stuff like that.
You shock me.
Did you know
Yes.
that mosquitoes are the most dangerous animal in the world? They kill more people than anything else, even great white sharks, which actually don't kill many people at all. But mosquitoes.
Thank you. John. So you were on American Hero first season. You and Jonathan Bugsy were together. You and I sort of have some similarities. I actually change form, male to female, and you tend to like males and females.
I think of myself as ambidextrous.
I see.
In a sexual.
Okay, intersexual. Intersex is actually my term, but anyway. All right. So, tell us a little bit about your power.
Well, it's basically I have an array of flames. And the different flames, only one of them is hot, actually, so you don't have to worry too much about things melting. It gets a little out of control sometimes, but in general, I manage not to, burn anything down.
So I take it these are rainbow flames.
Yes, they are.
That's-
And each of the colors has its own special.
Could you just run through them quickly for people?
Well, yellow is heat, so I can, burn down obstacles or, lay down suppressive fire or whatever if I need to. You never know. If you want to get the traffic out of the way faster. I have my red flame is actually one of my favorites because you can use it to build things. And, the structures will last for a few minutes.
Okay.
You have to get the right color red. Some of the reds are not as, robust as the others, but...
Right, this isn't a fashion discussion. Could we, come on.
Okay, and then there's blue, which is handy after I start a fire because then it can be used to put it out.
Because it's cold or it's water?
It is cold.
Oh,
It's like absolute zero cold. It's very nasty stuff. You got to handle it really carefully. Yeah. It can suck the air out of the room if you're not too careful.
Okay, I'm seeing a possibility here for a career. I mean, could we send you and Lorianne down to Brazil? She could summon the skeeters, and then you could just burn the shit out of them.
Well, the thing is that, it has kind of a negative effect on the rest of the habitat, too, if you're not careful.
Well, couldn't you, create a giant flaming circle and have the mosquitoes all fly into them? And then, we would solve the Zika problem, and they could have the Olympics without all these...
I don't like you, Mr. Matthews.
I have succeeded. All right. Now...
I have a few more colors, but I, sort of keep them under my hat a little bit.
I see. Okay. You're not going to tell the audience that because someone might come and pay you money, say, to use these?
Well, actually, after I left the show, and
Discarded.
I did not do that badly. I lasted up until that last, round. So I was.
And how many people did you sleep with on the show?
How many people didn't I sleep with on the show? But I don't kiss and tell. So I finished my MFA in fine art, and I tried to make a career of sort of performance art using my flames, but I got into a little bit of trouble, burned down a few art houses, and Snapchat, those kinds of things weren't around very much, so, you use some...
So what are you doing now? Are you a barista?
Actually, I am a detective. I'm an art detective. I work for one of the top insurance companies in the world. I get to travel all over, see fine art, and, fight bad guys, and... There's a good budget, contingency budget, if I accidentally burn something down or not.
Excellent. All right. And now we come to Jonathan.
Hello, no.
Now, you began life as a world-famous blogger, then you went on to American Hero.
Actually, I was more of an unknown, cheesy, nobody actually heard of me blogger before I went out to American Hero. The idea for American Hero was that perhaps someone would read my stuff.
I see. And then you did go off with the All-American Girl and several other people to protect people in the desert.
Yes,
and,
how silly of me.
Yeah. And
I mean, they were
you
all,
actually, you did good work. Well, I was there too, and you created a whole lot of problems, but we will all get into that later. At any rate, you now seem to be trying to win a Pulitzer Prize as a tabloid journalist for Aces magazine. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to the Pulitzer, but I would prefer a raise.
So say we all.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your power?
I turn at will into my equivalent mass in small green wasp-like insects.
That must be a very attractive thing when you're
It's
dating.
Everybody's adolescence was embarrassing. Mine was just a little more so. And it turns out there are a lot of entomology conferences around the country. There are people who you can meet at bars probably 4 or 5 times a year. Yeah.
You get lucky, in other words.
That might be stretching the truth.
I see. So what are you trying to...
I've gotten a wide variety of wrong phone numbers.
I'm sorry.
I don't believe you.
You're probably wise. So what are any plans beyond Aces where you write suggestive stories?
After I was in the news business for a while, and first the making the news business, and then the reporting the news business, and then the trying to affect good in the world business, I've discovered that the thing that really interests me is the undergarments of young actresses, and so I'm just going to stay where I am right now. I think it's got a long run out. I think it's a growth industry. I think once the New York Times and the Washington Post have gone belly up or been entirely turned over into propaganda machines, I'll still have a market.
So, Lorianne, are you rethinking your love?
So very nice.
Don't worry about it, kid. The Skeeters are a great plan. It's got a long run out too, and Noel's just trying to make you feel bad.
You succeeded.
Next
On
up,
the
we will
other
be
hand-
kicking puppies.
On the other hand, if Lorianne got over her disappointment in you, Bugsy, and she grew up to an age-appropriate age, so she wasn't jailbait. If you two got together, how do you think a blended household of mosquitoes and wasps would work out? That's how it would work out. wouldn't it?
Did your parents bring you here?
My dad.
Your dad needs to talk to Noel a little bit later on, because I think that might have been actionable.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything you'd like to say to each other, since you, well, 2 of you at least, go back a long way, and Lorianne had ambitions to join you on American Hero, so any questions you have for Noel, for Bugsy, Lori?
Yeah, how's the writing going? I haven't been keeping up lately.
I have been using a lot of articles and verbs, especially these days. I'm really exploring my options. I'm thinking about moving into adjectives.
Go slow then.
I'm going slow,
Go slow.
and I've been warned off adverbs. Adverbs are like alcoholism. It's an ongoing process of recovery.
And occasional relapses, I'm sure.
And occasional relapses. It's just a thing.
You're puzzling our youngest member.
No, I got it. It's cool. I had it all. It's really interesting.
So, are you enjoying your wonderful trip here to Santa Fe?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They got some really cool museums and stuff, and my dad took me to some nice restaurants, and we stayed in a really nice hotel, so it's really good.
Just a heads up, if you got the mosquitoes around here, be aware that it gets kind of cold at night, and sometimes they can kind of lose heat fast.
They stayed in the room with me. It's okay.
You
Okay,
didn't bring any to the set, did you?
Personal experience.
Did you bring some mosquitoes to the set?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done with this group now. Moving on.
saying
Any
it works for Bill
questions
Gates.
for our people? Anybody want?
Bugsy should talk about his relationship with the dead girl. His main relationship for years was with someone who died.
Like I said,
New side of you.
she wasn't, She was. It was really common. I told you the thing about not particularly getting lucky. It was emotionally complicated. It involved a lot of mortality and grief and the tearing open of my heart and sacrificing of the woman I most love, just, because it seemed like the menschy thing to do. But thanks for bringing it up. Well, you've got a little paper cut here. You got a lemon on you? Anybody else like to crack my heart open in front of a bunch of strangers and just see if I feel bad about it? I see some hand in the back.
No cracking hearts, but just kind of want to pick and prod a bit. The high schooler might want to cover your ears lest you get bad ideas. Were there any plans to sabotage anybody in order to win? If you wanted to win, would you sabotage anybody?
You have to understand, I was literally the first person ever voted off American Hero. I was literally first among losers. I had some plans for clever things once I got to the finals.
You weren't too focused on the actual fighting. You weren't doing all the other stuff that was kind of helping the rest of us.
I was drunk.
Well, at least you got something out of it.
That's true. What about you? Did you
Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, okay.
Made a lot of new friends.
Another so sweet. I was one of the guest challenges on American Hero, and I beat them like a drum. And I never even actually used my power because it was secret. All right, moving on. I think we've done enough with this group. Thank you all. And now from the mean streets of Jokertown in New York City, we have Jay Aykroyd. He's also known as Poppin' Jay. He's a private detective who walks the mean streets in search of cheating husbands. We also have Minal Patel. She escaped a life of walking the mean streets and the embrace of the kind of men that Jay photographs. And we have Jack Robichaux, a.k.a. Sewer Jack. Aren't you glad you came today? Mosquitoes, yes. Need a little assistance here. Lorianne, Sewer Jack's another native of Louisiana. You two have something in common. And another one who literalizes the metaphor about the bayous. So, here we are. Jay, tell us a little bit about your powers.
I'm a projecting teleport, so I just make a gun and point, and you're somewhere else. Has to be somewhere I know. But I know a lot of places, some of them nicer than others. And a few years ago, thanks to that idiot Dr. Tachyon, I went to the planet Tachys. So if someone really annoys me, I can dump them on Tachyon in his backyard, and a few hundred light years from home, and then they can figure out how the hell to get back. Mostly I just pop them to the tombs or to the main stage at Freaker's Strip Club, which is usually good. There's a few other places that I like to use.
So you use your powers in your work mostly within your small neighborhood, trying to make Jokertown a better place to live. Is that exactly what we're looking at here?
No, I'm trying to make a buck. I charge, by an hourly charge as a retainer up front for me to handle your case. And as I informed Tachyon, I do charge time and a half for other planets. If you can do some good, and I've been drawn into that on the way, because there's a lot of bad guys and assholes in Jokertown. But mostly I just try to serve my clients and do the cases and, solve a few mysteries. The Jokertown cops, the guys at Fort Freak, well, they're better than they used to be, but they're not the world's greatest police force or the world's most honest police force. So sometimes you need a private detective to unravel a few things that have gotten raveled or overlooked along the way.
Excellent. What is life like in Jokertown? I mean, what are the sights that visitors should go and see when they come to that cesspool, fair part of the city?
Today Jokertown's not much different than any other neighborhood in Manhattan, except that the people there look a little weird. They have 2 heads or 37 nipples like Manal. or they hover above the ground, or they have insect eyes, or whatever. But they're people like anyone else. Now, Jokertown's history in the 40s and the 50s, when it first started going, it was quite a different place. It was very, very depressed then. The Jokers were relatively new. They hadn't really formed a community yet. It was a real neighborhood of despair. It used to be called the Bowery before the wild card came along, and that's where the Jokers moved to and settled, because it was a bad neighborhood and rents were cheap and people moved there. It did in the 50s have a brief period of where some trendy nightclubs started, like the Fun House was the most famous one, where gnats and tourists would come to see the Jokers sing and dance and perform, and then very quickly leave Jokertown because the neighborhood around there was pretty bad. But those are long gone now, and Jokertown has actually become kind of yuppified in recent years. There are now like Joker bakers and Joker butchers, and there's a Whole Foods moving in, and
Starbucks. There was a Starbucks the last time I was there. Dreadful coffee. And by the way, gnats. That's what all of you losers are. You have no powers. You have no abilities. There's nothing interesting about you. You're just normal people. All right. So I understand when you went to this alien planet, where the bastards who did this to us came from with their virus, their hellborn virus, you brought back a wife.
I did, yes, Hastet. She was a Takesian, although she was... The Takesians are a real bunch of space assholes. Hastet had no psionic powers. She was what they call a mind blind. And the vast majority of the people on Takis are the mind blind, who don't have any telepathy or telekinesis or any of these powers. And they're all kind of the peasants, and they don't have very many rights. And they're ruled over by the Mentats, or the lords, of which Tachyon was one. They got various feuding families and things like that, kind of like that stupid Game of Thrones show,
Oh, yeah, that piece of shit.
but in space. And, they're all busy assassinating each other and having incestuous affairs and poisoning each other and having little wars, and they don't give two shits about the mind blind or Earth. We were their guinea pigs. They came up with this virus. They thought that would enhance their superpowers, their telepathy, but they weren't quite sure because it seemed to work badly on some of the test subjects. So they dumped it on Earth.
Right. Have you had any trouble with INS about your wife? Has that been...
No, I married her, so she's got a green card. You can marry an immigrant and bring them in.
Excellent.
She's a great cook. If you like Takesian food, Starfield's Restaurant. It's the best Takesian restaurant in New York City.
The only Takesian restaurant in New York City. Minal, you are somewhat of an oddity in this group of aces. You are, in fact, just a joker. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I don't have any powers.
But the virus changed you.
I only agreed to be on this show so that I hope that someone, that people will actually watch it. And Kavita, if you're out there, please come home. We miss you. And your daughter misses you. She keeps turning into a Garuda. Obviously we are used to it, but it's somewhat painful. And the wings can get quite large when she's in her biggest form. It's hard to manage a toddler with these kinds of powers. And she wants to find you, so she keeps trying to open the windows of our condo and get out and go searching for you. So I know you're off doing, important things with the government, but we'd like you to come home. And Michael is sorry.
Oh. Well, thank you for that. And the toddler thing, I have a 6-year-old son who is also an ace, and I wouldn't mind comparing notes with you. But your family, you do have a very interesting family dynamic. Unusual, even in this day and age, I would say.
I suppose so. I didn't really appreciate the slam against cops a second ago. My fiancé is a policeman. So thanks. Thanks for that.
Have you met some of the clowns he works with?
They try their best. It's not easy being a cop in Jokertown. So, in any case.
But you were rescued from a life. I mean, your marriage rescued you from a much less attractive situation. Yes.
It's an interesting way of phrasing it. You know, the wild card gave me. I mean, I was already somewhat generously endowed, and then after my card turned, I was much more generously endowed all over. So it seemed at the time that I could at least make use of this, and so I spent a while working as a whore. So, and I don't know, I did pretty well. You know, I saved up some money. I bought a really nice condo, much nicer than what my cop fiance can afford. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Eventually, I was ready to get out of the life. It had gotten a little dangerous in ways that I hadn't anticipated, and so the bit where I ended up having to take refuge with him and his girlfriend started out somewhat stressful, but then it worked out quite nicely.
So before Kavitha left you, you were a household where you had a Nat husband, or to-be husband, you as a joker, and this other woman who is the mother of your ace child, who is an ace, correct?
Yes, although she, I mean, back then she mostly thought of herself as a dancer, right? I mean, it's true that when she danced, she had the ability to spin force fields that she could walk on or throw at people, turn into spinning blades of death, make into big balls of, you know...
Death.
Death.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I mean, it was useful when our daughter was kidnapped. I mean, obviously, that was incredibly helpful, but...
So your household is, in a sense, the world. We are the wild card world encapsulated in your small condo that your husband can afford.
It was, for a little while, and then things did not go so well.
Well, perhaps you and Jay should talk, because you might be able to guide him to more of the evildoers in Jokertown he can take care of. Jack. Jack, you are one of... Jack. Hello, Jack. Hello. Yeah, that is so disturbing. Please don't fully turn into your form. I'd like you to be able to talk. You're one of the oldest aces here today, been around longer than most. What made you come to New York City? Why are you more comfortable in New York since you turned into a giant alligator? Wouldn't you be better off back home in Louisiana? Jack, could you please transform back into yourself? It would be really helpful. Thank you.
That's better. So, why do I like the Big Apple?
Yes.
Why did I go there?
Why are you living in a sewer in New York instead of in the bayous of Louisiana?
For one thing, it's more comfortable. And there's more assured food supply.
Ah. That was actually a question I had for you. I understand you were friends with a relatively shy and retiring ace, a very secretive ace called Vagabond, who controlled the pests of New York City, the rats, the cats, the squirrels. Did she perhaps provide the snacks for you while you were roaming the sewers?
Well, I couldn't eat the cats. She would have been very upset because the cats were her friends. But, you know, this is a ticklish question to answer here in public because Vagabond, as a matter of fact, is in the audience here. And she's dangerous if provoked. I mean, she is a native New Yorker. But, no, I think the thing about Vagabond is she has problems, which is, or some people would define them as problems because that's why she's on the street with her cats and her shopping cart. Okay? And I had my own set of problems, and the underground under Manhattan seemed like a great place to forge a new life for myself after spending time in what now seems like antebellum New Orleans, although it was rather more modern than that. I mean, alligators are long-lived, and alligator-human hybrids are very long-lived. I don't know how long because I'm not yet dead. Okay.
And congratulations. I'm glad to hear that. Being one of the older aces, what do you think about all these youngsters like TT and Bugsy and Curveball, all of whom went off and joined organizations like the Committee, who try to go around the world working for the UN? I believe your lady friend is also a member of that organization, trying to right the wrongs of the world. What do you have any advice for these youngsters?
Well, most of my advice is very much inner-directed or self-centered. For example, I would advise you, if you happen to be a weir reptile, specifically a weir alligator, these days you're precluded from jobs such as working at Disney.
That's terrible.
Because I recently, just to update you, I had a job as a bartender on a riverboat, and in the real world, in the other real world, my story as a bartender on a riverboat, written in collaboration with a gentleman named David Levine from Portland, is going to be, I understand, I feel like I'm Holmes talking about Watson and the stories in Strand magazine, but apparently my latest life account will be in one of the 3 new Wild Cards books. Simply will not be under my name, but will be with my permission, because I am a benevolent reptile. Okay, but otherwise, and I also have to explain why I know this is sad for my fans, but I'm no longer affecting a Cajun accent. And that is because it was not to my job benefit at Disney World after that unfortunate business with the little boy several weeks ago in the lagoon by Animal Kingdom. But I have to say that there is a way to solve that, because as you may know, and this is real, Disney has banned all representations of reptiles like me from Disneyland and Disney World, especially the crocodile from Peter Pan.
Okay. Yes. All right. PC run amok. Anything you 3 would like to discuss among yourselves? Any questions you have for each other? And then any audience would like to speak with these good folks?
So, Jack, how much time do you spend as a human being versus time as an alligator? Is your life half and half, or do you only turn into an alligator on occasions of threat or jeopardy, or when you're hungry?
Yeah, well, mainly when I'm provoked. It is very true. But left to my own devices, I would rather spend about half my time being in human form. The downside of that, and it's one reason why I'm no longer living in New York City, is in Manhattan, I get very nervous when I walk past luggage stores. And I mean, I first learned about this about the time that John Sayles' movie Alligator came out. And there's a sequence in that which is terrifying to anybody who's a weir alligator. When Robert Forster comes up to the proprietor of the luggage store and says, "Have you seen a giant alligator come by?" And the proprietor says, "Nope, all we've got these suitcases." But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Wait, when you're in your alligator form, are you attracted to other alligators? Do you have alligator relationships as well as the relationships you have in your human form?
Well, whether it's gator or human relationships, I guess I'm always attracted to alligators. Metaphorically
visual.
or literally.
I don't want that visual.
I like an open-minded man.
I try to be, and then I go back to living alone and making gumbo.
You did have a rather unusual apartment in New York, one you paid no rent for, but was rather striking and interesting.
Oh, it was great. Lots similar apartments in some similar locations have been used by antisocial private detectives for a long time. What I was using, what I'd renovated, was an old abandoned subway station, which made for a perfect venue for a person such as myself. It was always quiet, except for the active subway tunnels adjacent, where the trains would go by, and more, which made it more and more obnoxious to live under the streets, were frankly, and I know this is probably not very PC, but street people can be so obnoxious. No offense to Vagabond, but the squeaky wheels of shopping carts that have not been maintained can drive a person bugfuck.
Yes, well, these old-timey reminiscences have been lovely. But moving on, anybody have any questions or should... Yes, there's a question.
Can you speak to the rumor that that organized crime members no longer take the subway in New York? That has something to do with Sewer Jack?
Well, I mean, I'd like to take credit for that, but I don't feel that that would be completely fair. I think many people contributed to fear of riding the subways.
And don't you have a friend who is a subway car?
Well, I know that may sound odd. And the Wild Cards universe seemingly is a universe of almost infinite mutability, but I think one of the all-time strangest talents was a woman named C.C. Ryder, at least she called herself that, and her distinctive ability was to turn into an entire functional subway car with graffiti. Yes.
I have to ask, have you ever thought about going into business as a sort of travel person? I mean, I'm just thinking, I used to be in a long-distance relationship with this girl in Australia, and it would have been really nice to be able to bop over there, bop back. I guess we couldn't do the bop back part, but you could at least save one flight.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of my power is I can't do it to myself, so I have to take airplanes and buses and drive places and so forth, but I can pop other people. So yeah,
people might pay handsomely.
I could do into that. People do occasionally make use of that ability. I've occasionally been strong-armed by criminals who see me as the ultimate aid to smuggling.
Oh, I embrace it. I teleport, you know, so pay me enough money, I'll take you anywhere if I can.
I'm kind of surprised the government hasn't come to you.
Oh, the government's come to me quite a few times. Yeah, I've had my share of adventures with the government. We have some government guys here in the audience here.
Which is a beautiful segue. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you to our guests. And now for the final guests on my chairs, on my couch, at my table here. These are what I would call the heavy hitter categories. Oh, sorry, Bubbles, no offense. Anyway, here are some of the fiercest fighters in our wild card world. And one you wouldn't expect to be in this category, but he has friends. So, because there is nothing more tiresome, charming, than an old hippie, I give you Mark Meadows, a.k.a. Captain Trips. Please, Mark, take... And then we have Con. Just Con, it's sort of like Prince, but less talented. And we have William Billy Ray, known as Carnifax. He is the head of the FBI's ACE division of the Special Committee for Ace Resources and Endeavors, which shortens to SCARE. because that doesn't sound ominous. And finally, we have Michelle Pond, aka the amazing Bubbles. With her name, she makes up for Con. So I'm going to start with Mr. Ray. I call him Mr. because he has the power to put me in jail. Tell me a little bit about your powers.
Well, I'm the baddest man on the planet.
Microphone, please.
Baddest man on the planet.
I see, and
Notice man. Man.
Well, I am a man, so.
Theoretically.
Perhaps we should separate these two. All right. Mr. Ray, you've worked for the government most of your career.
My entire life.
What are the challenges of policing a world in which people have meta-human powers?
Well, as we've seen already, there's such a wide array of people. Like, people could turn into subway cars. It's hardly an easy thing to police, you know. People who could control mosquitoes. People who could do this. People could do that. So, you know, being the baddest man on the planet helps sometimes, but at other times, what are you going to do? I mean, you know, we haven't managed to put you away yet, so because you know, that whole teleporting thing, you know, it's hard to deal with.
Yes, it is. I've been in more prisons than I care to think about, and left most of them. But you, in this world of people with powers, many of whom are obviously not as badass as you, what about vigilante actions? What do you make of all these youngsters going out and trying to affect change? Does it help you, or does it just get in your way?
Well, they can be a pain in the ass, basically. But
I would second that, yes.
you know, most of the committee does work under the auspices of the UN, which is an entirely different outfit than what I deal with. I mean, in the old days, it was a lot easier. They would just send me somewhere and I would kick ass. But now, as the head of SCARE, and I have to deal with budgets and meetings and attorney generals who are always a pain in the ass. I mean, I thought Hillary Rodham was bad, but this new guy, Cruz, is horrible. You know, there's all that to deal with.
Terrible, yeah.
And I spend too much. I waste too much time dealing with crap like that instead of being out in the field now. But, you know, it's all comes with the job.
You know, I know you think I'm a terrible person, but you do know I worked for the British government for most of my career.
Yeah, and happily enough, we did put your boss in the Hague, and he's serving a long sentence for his activity.
Yes. So, I mean, do you think?
Don't laugh, Bugsy.
I was innocent. Nothing got proved.
But
Yeah.
you have had fearsome fights that have left you badly injured, I believe, over the years, have you not?
Oh, yeah. You know, maybe not my finest moment, but when I fought that little Nazi fuck on, you know, national television at the Democratic Convention in Atlanta, and he managed to unzip me from my crotch, my sternum, that was not good. And yet here I am. Took me 6 months in the hospital and never got a get well card from the senator I was bodyguarding at the time, because he turned out to be a piece of work.
Ace, yes.
Yes, he turned out to be a piece of work himself, and was eventually dealt with in an exciting manner. Yeah, much like Mackie Messer was, thanks to good old Demise. But you know, all water under the bridge. Yes, exactly.
Now, Captain Trips.
Yeah, man.
You are you on?
Am I on?
Yeah, now you are.
I'm on now. I'm always on, man.
Yes, tell us a little bit about your powers.
Well, they're not like really my powers, man. They're like my friends. I like have some friends who have powers, and one of them is a Korean woman who's a martial arts expert, And then there's one of them who's
Actually, she was one of the toughest people I ever came against. And I
Wow,
think
man.
when we fought, it was to a kind of a
That's right, man.
a tie. Yeah.
That's right. And there's J.J. Flash Esquire, who's a lawyer who can fly and like shoot fire and stuff, man. He's pretty spectacular. And there was Starshine, who was super strong and could fly through space, and he was actually he was a little bit full of himself, man, I've got to say, but he was a good man at heart. Was, yeah. Well, these things happen. And there was one called Mystic Traveler, who could like imitate other people, appear to be other people. And then finally there was Aquarius, who was like this French Canadian dude who was an oceanologist who could turn into a dolphin and was really crabby, man. But he was really useful if you were like having difficulties that involved or were like really, really near bodies of water. It was far out.
How do you get in touch with your friends? More to the point.
Drugs, man.
And where do you procure these drugs, Mark?
Well, wherever. I don't go to the corner unless I have to, but actually I am a highly trained biochemist, so I do have certain connections, but the government has been cracking down in recent years.
So you're Walter White of Manhattan, is what you're telling me.
What's that?
You're Walter White. You cook these in your basement.
Well, yeah, but for my own consumption, man.
I see.
I was going to say, Edmund Scientific is not as great as they used to be, because the man has been cracking down, man. But no, actually, I experiment extensively on myself, because I'm trying to recapture this great shining moment. The first time I dropped LSD, back in the early 70s at a concert by the Lizard King.
All hail the lizard.
Tommy Douglas Morrison, man, he was far out, man. He was far out and righteous dude, and he ran into some trouble with this fascist kind of guy called Hard Hat, and then suddenly I wasn't there, but there was this dude named the Radical who was like tall and beautiful and strong and righteous and handsome and had a golden peace symbol, and he defeated that Hard Hat man and saved the concert and the people.
Yes,
and it was glorious. It was far
we had
far
a
out.
few dealings with the Radical, which brings me over to Michelle Bubbles.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your powers, my dear.
Do I actually have to talk to you?
You can talk to them.
Okay, well, you're not my favorite person, as you know.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
all right.
Okay.
We work together well.
Yeah. Yeah, well. Oh, my powers, I take physical damage, and I store it as fat, and then when I want to, I release it in the form of bubbles that I can control. And pretty much anything I can think of, I can do with them. I can make them explode. I can encase people in them. I can build walls with them. Basically, I'm filled with plot.
Excellent. And but in your other life, when you're not being a famous ace, you've been a supermodel, and obviously
right.
you were in your supermodel self today.
Well,
your svelte self.
yeah.
When you are struck and you become very large, I mean, has this given you perspective on the sort of pressures that are placed on women about body image?
Sure. There's real disappointment when I show up and I'm in my bubbling state, when I'm a big girl, And honestly, it's a little insulting, because what difference does it make? But, I like being fat, I like being thin. Kind of depends on who I'm seeing at the time, too, because some people like it fat, some people like it thin. Yeah.
And I believe that you met this golden form of Mr. Meadows at one point.
Oh, it wasn't Meadows that really... Well, I mean, Meadows did make sure that a young ace called Little Fat Boy exploded at a nuclear explosion, which I had to absorb because, well, it would have, destroyed all of New Orleans. And I became really fat and really heavy. And I went into a coma for 2 years. And it was awkward. It was very awkward.
I believe I met you just before that occurred. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, well, it actually wasn't the radical that was the worst of it. It was Monster. Monster. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaguely bad. Those are kind of blackout episodes.
Yeah, what I want to know is what was the deal with the penis? I just need to really know that. I need to understand what that was all about.
Well, the nearest I could figure out, man, is he's like all of my worst subconscious urges kind of combined and on super mega steroids.
Yeah.
Kind of a bummer.
So in other words, your friends are just parts of your id, your psyche, in other words. Are you kidnapping people from other dimensions?
I'm not saying, man. On advice of my lawyer.
Well, Con, you're a joker ace. You're one of the people in between. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I do nothing special. I work in import, export, and when you take the Fed away from the stage here, then I might go further into my background, but I really do nothing untoward. All I do is I provide protection for people who pay well for protection. And it's easy because there's a certain subset of, let's say, businessmen that like to be flashy, and they like flashy bodyguards, and you can't get much more flashy than having a bodyguard who's 300 pounds and is basically half tiger. Well, not basically, it is half tiger. From the center line down, the left side of my body being tiger, claws and everything, and fangs, and then the right side being a fairly muscular person, being able to use all the human tools that human bodyguards use, and not being ashamed to use either. And there's a lot of people out there that the kind that wear tracksuits and gold chains and stuff like that, that like to have a big, badass, imposing-looking bodyguard. The only difference is most of those big, badass, imposing-looking bodyguards can't really walk the walk, and Khan can walk the walk.
I see. All right.
This is with those of us with mononyms like to refer themselves in the third person a lot.
Quite. Yes, lovely. So, having now established the caliber of person that you tend to protect, don't you feel when faced with all of these people who have done something useful, well, semi-useful with their lives, have tried to do good, that perhaps you could do something more than simply looking after mob bosses in Chicago?
Making money is pretty useful, and they pay really, really well. I mean, I could use my strength to stack bricks on a construction site somewhere for $20 an hour, or I can charge some greasy little underworld dude $50,000 a week for looking after his ass, and usually they're much less bad than they think they are, so it's a really low-risk job most of the time. It gets hairy at times when you really have to work for your money, but most of the time it's a lot of money for not a lot of work. You basically stand behind a chair and kind of growl at people when they come too close to your principal.
And
look imposing and large, yes.
Mr. Ray, how do you feel about this sort of behavior on the part of someone?
Well, as long as these, I guess even little greasy little criminals need protection sometimes. But, you got to watch out, because sometimes you might find yourself stuck in the past somewhere. Things happen. Things happen in the wild card universe, and people have strange powers.
Or they might come up against you. If you have to go through him to get to, it would be an interesting
It might.
Since you're the baddest man in the world, but apparently Khan is challenging you for that.
No. I fought him before. I fought him before. I kind of kicked his ass.
Yes, to be blunt, I, who get to change form male and female as it suits me, I have to say I find it ironic that this elegant little thing here is actually probably the toughest ace in the universe. I have figured out how to kill you, because that was my previous profession, but nonetheless, you aren't easy to kill.
What I want to know is, why don't you ever show up as Lilith? Because, I could get behind that.
Call me later. All right?
No, I'll call her, but I'm not going to call you.
It's still me, darling.
I don't know, it's a form thing.
Obviously, you're not interested in my mind.
No.
Do any of you have any discussion among yourselves? I know some of you go back quite a ways in this world, Mr. Ray in particular, and Captain Trips.
Well, actually, I got a question for Cod, man. Like, where do you get your suits?
You can't just walk into Brooks Brothers looking the way I do and go like, hook me up. You got to have them tailored.
Okay, man.
Yeah, there have to be, special allowances made when you weigh 300 pounds and you're built like, The Rock, and half of you is covered in fur, and then you've got the knifey things at the end of your paws that, so your shoes have to be, accordingly, the left shoe is always bigger than the right shoe because you got to allow space for the claws. You have no idea how many pairs of good shoes I ruined until I figured that out.
Bummer, man.
And if you're covered in fur, I presume that, do you make half the suit in a lightweight material for summer wear? And never mind, I'm sorry, I had a moment of going to Savile Row. But thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I want to know what's going on with Angel right now.
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but you'll find out, and you'll find out eventually. But actually, yes, my wife, who is one of the baddest women on the planet, and
Not quite.
the flaming sword is
it's
quite
true that
impressive.
it's very
yes.
impressive.
But she's gone through difficult times after the how could we say it, the apocalypse at Talus.
Yeah, I decided to miss that one.
Yeah,
I was
you were
there
lucky.
I was there for Monster.
I was there at the end of that one.
Yeah,
and,
no,
Yeah, showing up late as usual.
yeah. No, I was busy saving the world, lifeguarding the people who got to. Well, I can't. This is probably classified, so I shouldn't give it out until
Yeah, you and me, buddy, you and me.
until the details come out on August 30th.
WikiLeaks, I understand.
Yeah, we got to watch out for them. Yeah.
Any questions for our heavy hitters?
Mr. Khan, if you say you're like half tiger and half person, what is it like down there?
Why did I know that somebody was going to ask that question?
She's a high school girl, so.
Keep it clean.
Show up for the right card game, or soiree, or whatever it is that the underworld is throwing, and we can get liquored up, and you can find out.
She's underage.
Not in Louisiana, probably.
Anybody else?
You don't have as many friends as I do, but you've been doing it longer. I wish you to. We need to go talk.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
I really admired some of your powers, Rosa. I think that's a real far out power. Like, even if you do randomly turn into a canoe. But everything's beautiful, man. Everything's beautiful.
Yes, Jay.
Yes, I have a physics question. Now, we know that when Bubbles wants to
bulk up,
fed up to exercise her power, she sometimes jumps out of the window of a building and falls a few stories and hits the ground and instantly becomes very fat and a lot of power.
It's
My
awesome.
question is, if she jumps out of the window of a 3-story building and she jumps off the top of the Empire State Building, does she become equally fat at the bottom, or does she become fatter for one than for the other?
We have many possible answers. Gentleman in the back.
Terminal velocity.
That's right, man.
So it's the same.
144 feet per second, man. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. No, you don't accelerate that fast, man. It's 32 feet per second per second.
A 3-story building?
No.
Okay. How many stories does she need to get to her full fatness?
Well, we haven't really established. I mean, I guess once the atomic bomb.
I think the
went
nuclear
off,
explosion
the nuclear
was
explosion might have established that. But yeah, she's a big girl when she takes a lot of damage. So, and then of course, she bubbles it off and blows people up sometimes, and makes their head explode and encases them in a whirlwind of bubbles. So they're really scared.
Ooh, bubbles.
Really? Really? Because Ray, I'm pretty sure we had a conversation about this a while ago, and you lost.
As you say, you're full of plot.
I'm very full of plot.
Anybody? I'm trying to look past all the spotlights. Yes. Mr. Robichaud.
Thank you, thank you. I don't get out much, frankly, and I've heard a rumor recently, and I'm wondering whether you folks can confirm it or not, but I know that there's a famous science fiction horror writer who's currently completing a new novel, which is about an alternate world in which the political system in America has gone completely haywire. And in this novel, there is a character much like the walking dude in Stephen King, who's an endlessly bankrupt billionaire. But he has such plans for bringing evil into the world. Now, can you speak to this whole topic?
Sounds like a bad trip to me.
Yeah.
He's doing some bad acid, man. You need to talk to me.
We were recently in the UK and we were friends in Wales, and they said to me, "Can you explain Donald Trump?" And I said no. Events have progressed since then. That was about 6 weeks ago. And I gotta say, it's getting fucking weirder and weirder and weirder. And I'm afraid where this is gonna end. But, you know.
And I, being a citizen of the UK,
Yes.
go, have you Yanks all lost your minds? And is this a social experiment? At any rate, if we have no more questions, I think that wraps up the first episode of my show. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating.
Peace,